Hello, and welcome to another ShoddyCast creator commentary. I'm Charles Battersby, the screenwriter that wrote this episode and the final 6-episode arc of Season 4. So here we are with It's All Over But the Crying. Every episode in this little story arc has a title that's taken from a song in the Fallout series, and it's all over but the crying. So when I wrote this, I knew we were going into the conclusion, and that the conclusion would be a little more dramatic and action-packed, and even a little maudlin. And we weren't really sure what ShoddyCast was going to do with Fallout-related machinima after we finished this. So I wanted to take all of the crazy, silly ideas that I had that never got put into any ShoddyCast project and cram them all into this final episode before we go on to the serious episode where I hope some people out there were crying when they watched it. With every episode in this story arc, we have why are they telling the story. So we don't see who Helen and Storyteller are talking to in this scene. And a lot of viewers thought that they were talking directly to the camera, to the audience, the viewer at home. And really, they're speaking to Edna and Daisy. Before we did Season 4, there was an idea that we would round off the storyline with Ranger Tanner and the Cyborg through a playable mod. And one of the locations you would have visited in that playable mod was the vault that was sponsored by Wilson Automatoys. So if that had happened, we would have found a vault where the entire community is generations of people who've been raised in a culture that's based on My Little Pony, or, you know, a very sweet, saccharine, Saturday morning kind of cartoon world where everything is happy and fun. And, you know, they've had to live like this for 200 years. You, the player, would have the choice of fixing their over pony, making it 20% cooler, and if you had completed the quest with a positive, or, you know, by assisting them, you would eventually get your own pony name. And there would have been a list of different titles you could choose from. Princess Sparkle Panties would have been one of them. And even as I wrote this, I wasn't entirely sure about how pretentious we could get with this, because it's also a story within a story within a story within a story. And that's why Helen says, I'm trying to inject a little narrative complexity into this dog and pony show. So even as I wrote it, I had the sense that I was going a little too far with the narrative complexity. And I think for a lot of viewers it worked, and for a lot of viewers it didn't. Oh, but I must tangent now, because these are some fun voice cameos that you get here. First, the mechanist that we do that's robbing the bank, that's actually me doing my villain voice. I hope you can hear me twisting my mustache as I do that. And the Grognak the Barbarian that you hear there, that is actually Jason, the voice actor that does Storyteller. So a lot of people have asked, why does Grognak sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger? So you damn kids today, way back in the 1980s, Arnold Schwarzenegger starred in the first film adaptation of the Conan the Barbarian books, and it wasn't a very accurate adaptation of any of the original short stories or the comic books. And Arnold was fresh off the boat from Austria at that time and still had a real thick Austrian accent. So a lot of people consider that, you know, their iconic interpretation of Conan. If you'd never read the books, if you never read the comics, and you just saw the movie for the first time, then that's how you think of Conan the Barbarian. So that's why in ShoddyCast we do Grognak as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And there's a really obscure cameo that if you missed that episode of GNN, you didn't get it. But about 24 minutes into episode 2 of the GNN podcast, we have a little sketch that we do where Jason came on the show and guest starred as Howard Braunschweiger, the star of the Grognak the Barbarian TV show. Because back when we were doing the GNN podcast, we had a little joke that we would always talk about upcoming episodes of shows also playing on GNN. So if you go back and you hunt down that episode 2 of the GNN podcast with me and Austin, you'll get to hear a little sketch where we pretend that Howard Braunschweiger is Grognak the Barbarian. It's terribly, terribly clever, I assure you. So this whole episode boils down to this big reveal here where Daisy and Edna are finally back, and Storyteller has upgraded them into badass killing machines. And we had a lot of debate leading up to this of what could the machinima artist do in terms of finding mods that would turn Daisy into a real cyber dog, and that could allow Edna to be this big mechanical monstrosity with a little eyebot head on top. And it was really the mod community that helped us do that. I think there should have been cyber dogs in Fallout 4 right from the beginning, and there were also limitations with what you could do with the Automatron DLC. Then once this reveal is out of the way, we go on to the big finale, what we've been leading up to for the last couple episodes. The Sole Survivor shows up! And this was something that was a real privilege for me to write. Most of the time when I play Fallout 4, I play with Courtney as the voice actress and do a sarcastic character. So this was a delight for me to be able to write the character as I see it, and to hear Courtney actually saying my dialogue. And she sent us several different takes of all of her dialogue. She's a real pro, and even though there's only one line that she says in this episode, I was really excited when I heard her finally say something I wrote. And you'll note that she has dog meat with her, and she's wearing her Vault 111 jumpsuit and holding the cryolator, and all of that is done so that the viewers understand, yes, this is really the sole survivor, with her official companions, with a unique weapon that only she can get. And that was all put in just to make sure there's no doubts whatsoever. This is really the canonical protagonist of the game. Tune in again when we update our Patreon page for more commentaries on the final couple episodes of Season 4. And also, if you like these commentaries and you want to hear more of them, let us know in the comments section on our Patreon page or on social media. Tell us what episodes you'd like to hear about. Tell us what other members of the creative team you'd like to hear from. If you want to hear from the voice actors, the machinima artists, the editors, the directors, anybody else from ShoddyCast, let us know and we will make a commentary featuring them. Once again, I'm Charles Battersby. Thank you for listening.